A drone burst into a million fiery pieces, raining bits of plastic and scorched wire onto my tomato plants. One of my eagles, Talon, let out a victorious screech as he circled overhead. Down the street, Karen, our HOA president and resident surveillance junkie, was screaming something about airspace laws and government interference. And there I was, just standing on my porch, coffee in hand, watching smoke spiral into the morning sky. "That's drone number 4 this week," I muttered. "You're probably wondering how I got here. Well, buckle up. It all started with a letter. Not a handwritten note or a friendly neighborly knock, but one of those highlighter yellow HOA violation notices slapped onto my front gate like some passive-aggressive ransom demand. Unauthorized structure in rear yard. Potential hazard to community aesthetics, it read. The blurry photo attached? It was the reinforced perch pole I'd put up years ago for Talon. Unless you climbed a tree or, flew a drone, you couldn't even see it from street. But that's exactly what Karen Mitchell, queen of the HOA, had started doing. At first, I thought it was a joke. Surely they weren't serious about sighting a bird perch on a 2-acre lot, especially since my property wasn't even under HOA jurisdiction when I bought it. But no, they were dead serious. The next notice landed 3 days later. Violation, wildlife attractant activity. No details. Then another for unsanctioned Aries installation. Breach of architectural guidelines. I laughed out loud, imagining Karen, clipboard in hand, squinting through binoculars and furiously Googling how to evict an eagle. Within 2 weeks, I'd received 5 separate citations, each more ridiculous than the last. One accused me of encouraging dangerous wildlife activity through persistent nesting behavior. That's what they called it when Ember, one of my younger raptors, laid 2 perfect eggs in a cedar platform I'd built. It wasn't ignorance anymore. It was targeted harassment, painted up in bureaucratic gloss. I'd been living on the edge of Juniper Ridge for 12 years, my property backing up to federally protected land. I'd built my home long before the HOA even considered extending their claws into this corner. I didn't mess with them, and they didn't mess with me until Karen showed up. She was elected just 6 months back after organizing a fake neighborhood beautification campaign and leveraging it into an administrative coup. From what I gathered, she was a retired marketing exec, white-collar husband, a yappy little dog named Mooey, and a terrifying affection for the phrase community compliance. Unfortunately for her, she had no idea who she was picking a fight with. I didn't decorate for holidays. I didn't gossip at the dog park. And I sure as hell didn't attend meetings about mailbox uniformity. I rehabilitated raptors, eagles, hawks, and owls wounded by power lines or illegal traps. I've been licensed by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service for nearly a decade. My land was under a conservation easement, federal rules that trumped local zoning laws. But Karen didn't care. That became obvious when I caught her drone buzzing 20 feet over my backyard while I was feeding Haven, my blind golden eagle. It hovered like an obnoxious mechanical hornet, lens blinking red as it zoomed in on Ember's nest. I threw a pine cone at it, pure instinct. 10 minutes later, I got an email, a screenshot of me mid-throw, subject line, evidence of hostility toward HOA monitoring efforts. I replied, "You're trespassing on federal rehab land. Kindly F off." I kept the language professional in the official letter I mailed to the HOA, citing the 1974 Wildlife Rehabilitation Act and my easement code. But Karen didn't care about facts. She wanted control. That afternoon, I saw her standing on her porch roof, remote control in hand, guiding her little DJI drone back to its nest beside her chimney. I waved. She didn't wave back. 2 days later, her drone came again, this time with a longer lens and an infrared sensor. Talon spotted it from his perch atop the garage. The drone swooped lower, probably after Ember's nest. In one smooth, terrifying motion, Talon launched. Wings thundered, and within seconds he slammed into the drone. Pieces rained down in front of my shed. Talon circled overhead, landed, fluffed his feathers like he'd just taken out a threat to national security. I didn't know whether to laugh, cheer, or panic. Karen? She panicked. That evening, a teenager in a lime green HOA vest delivered a notice to my gate. Notice of wildlife hazard, aggressive animal behavior. The irony was delicious. Her drone was the aggressor, the lawbreaker, and now she was blaming my eagle. I sent another letter, this time attaching wildlife cam footage that showed her drone invading the nest perimeter. I sent copies to the HOA, to Karen, and to the city wildlife coordinator. The only response? Yet another violation. Non-compliant aerial defense structures. That's when I knew. This wasn't ignorance. It was malice. Karen ramped up. She launched a smaller, quieter, faster drone. I'd installed a decoy nest near the property's edge. She fixated on it. Ember, patient as ever, waited. The moment the drone dipped below 30 feet, she struck, snatched it out of the air, crushed it, and dropped it near the pond like a cat with a mouse. I left its carcass outside Karen's house with a post-it. You're being watched, too. I figured that would slow her down. I was wrong. She bought more drones, cited me for excessive bird presence, accused me of running an unregulated raptor colony, claimed I was operating a wildlife preserve without community approval. I pinned that one to my fridge like a trophy. The war had begun. Not with lawsuits or fists, but with notices, talons, and spinning plastic wings. What Karen didn't realize was I'd been preparing for this my whole life. She had drones. I had eagles. And the sky? That belonged to us. Karen didn't take the losses lightly. 2 drones down in a week. She took it personal, like my birds were attacking her authority. Her next move was textbook overcompensation. She brought out a matte black Autel EVO 2 Dual 640T, thermal imaging, 8K video, rotors whisper quiet. It lifted off her driveway one evening like a stealth bomber. I saw Talon spot it, but I held him back. I needed to see just how far she'd go. The drone hovered 20 feet above the old nesting platform, filming for 38 minutes. I made popcorn. She wasn't hiding anymore. She wanted me to know I was being watched. Next morning, notice of community disruption, unauthorized aerial aggression. Attached was a photo of Ember mid-swoop, claws out, eyes locked on a down drone. I laughed until I choked on my coffee. But under the humor was a chill. Karen was building a case. Like any good predator, I knew better than to let her outmaneuver me. I installed 6 new trail cams, 3 facing the tree line, 2 along the south fence, 1 hidden inside the old barn. I mounted GoPros, non-intrusive harnesses, on Talon and Ember, capturing everything they saw. The footage made my stomach twist. Talon tracked that new Autel drone as it buzzed not just my yard, but 6 other properties, hovering by windows, skimming rooftops, even peeping through the Wong's window while their daughter was changing. That one frame, a teenage girl startled, drone hovering, changed everything. I mailed copies to every house on the block. Karen says it's about safety. You decide. By the end of the week, neighbors were furious, some at her, some at me. But the best was Mrs. Halverson across the street, retired Navy intel, called Karen Generalissimo. She showed up with a binder, Juniper Ridge surveillance activity. Been waiting 30 years for someone to care. Let's burn the witch, she said. Meanwhile, the Eagles were making a sport of it. Ember tracked drones by sound, launching like a javelin the second they crossed the meadow. I didn't encourage it, but I didn't stop it. My job was to document. 40 hours of footage, GPS logs, violation notes. I built a folder. Airspace Invasion, Exhibit A. I filed a Freedom of Information Act request with the county. Turns out Karen had no permissions, no exemptions. She was operating a civilian-grade drone with thermal optics over private property, spying. Her response? A $1,250 fine for hostile Ares interference. I framed it, hung it in the outhouse next to a picture of Ember holding a busted DJI Mini 2. I call my lawyer, Nate, quiet guy, former prosecutor. He flipped through my rehab license, conservation documents, the 1987 bird sanctuary ruling. Yeah, he said, we're going to roast this chick. Karen doubled down. She issued a glossy HOA newsletter soaring threats when wildlife becomes weaponized. claimed rogue eagles were destroying community safety drones. The next page, a dramatic photo of Talon, known aggressor. I considered sending it to National Geographic. What told me? Karen wasn't afraid of facts. She was afraid of losing control. So I kept digging. I traced drone receipts, mapped every flight, charted nest proximity. 3 of her drones were purchased on the HOA's dime, through Karen's personal Amazon account, reimbursed by the HOA Treasury. I took this to the treasurer, Mr. Dunn. He blinked, nodded, and said, "I thought we were buying radios." The fence-sitters started shifting. I found an anonymous envelope. Karen's been hiding flight records. Check the archives, drawer B. The next morning, I went to the HOA office, asked for archive access, and Margaret, the secretary, exhausted, handed me the keys. Drawer B. 37 drone reports, flight logs, resident names, even a 6 a.m. flight over the Gonzalez's backyard for possible unpermitted hammock. My name was listed 15 times. That was enough. The drones weren't Karen's toys, they were evidence. And as my eagles kept winning in the sky, I prepped to win in court. One final surprise. One drone Karen didn't know I'd recovered from the pond, with a hidden microphone and audio logs. Karen, I don't care if it's illegal. I want to see what he's hiding. Surveillance cuts both ways. Karen finally hit my wall. Drone number 6 clipped Talon's nest box and crashed into protected airspace. I found a wreckage, camera and SD card intact. That drone had crossed the no-fly zone, the line even I couldn't cross without written permission. Karen had flown right into a fireworks factory, and everything changed. I called my wildlife attorney, Nain, tough as nails. Send everything. And don't touch the drone. I did as told. She called back, thrilled. Karen hadn't just violated a buffer. She'd done it as an elected official, using HOA funds. That triggered an investigation by the Department of the Interior and State Fish and Game. The DOI sent notice, preserve all evidence. Next day, a government SUV at my gate, Special Agent Darrow, badge, eagle lapel pin, handshake like a congressional witness. We spent 4 hours reviewing drone footage, trail cam logs, easement maps. When he saw the crash, the drone, the annotated HOA board minutes in Karen's handwriting, "This is gold," he said. The investigation expanded. State Environmental Office, game warden, university biologist. The biologist called it textbook violation. The HOA stayed clueless, but the dominoes fell fast. Budgets frozen, all drone activity suspended. Karen called an emergency meeting, canceled due to unforeseen legal complications. I sat on my truck, lemonade in hand, watched her storm her car. The treasurer resigned, citing ethical concerns and possible criminal exposure. Margaret sent a handwritten apology and a Tractor Supply gift card. Karen, for her part, accused me of colluding with deep state environmental agents on the HOA board. Her drones grounded, her budget frozen. For the first time in weeks, the sky was quiet. Talon flew undisturbed. Ember guarded her nest in peace. But Karen still lived 3 doors down, and I wasn't the type to leave a battle half-fought. I never thought I'd sue an HOA over a bald eagle. But after Karen's drone fleet harassed my birds, trespassed, and violated every law in the book, there was no other choice. Cease and desist was just the start. We filed for an emergency injunction, granted in 72 hours, freezing all surveillance. The Department of the Interior seized what was left of her drones. Silence, finally. Court day was wild. Press in the back, my neighbor Mrs. Halverson front row, PBS crew rolling. Karen's lawyer claimed I'd weaponized eagles. My attorney just played the footage. Drones crossing lines, GoPro on Talon, drone's memory card with Karen admitting she didn't care about the law. Margaret, the secretary, testified Karen made her hide drone purchases. That was the nail in the coffin. The judge ruled the HOA had willfully violated federal law, misused funds, trespassed into protected zones, and endangered wildlife. Effective immediately, the board was dissolved, a receiver appointed for a forensic audit. Karen's jaw dropped when the gavel fell. Appeals failed. FAA fines stuck, so did federal penalties. Her husband moved out. The for sale sign went up. Me? I finally had peace. The eagles nested undisturbed. Ember's chicks hatched, strong and healthy. With the court's damages and a neighbor's donation, I built a real raptor center. Stone facade, steel mesh cages, classroom for kids, an observation deck overlooking the trees. I named it Karen's Nest. Mahogany sign, gilded letters. Underneath, a sanctuary for raptors, free from harassment. Some thought it petty. I called it poetic. The grand opening drew a crowd. 200 people. The mayor, a bald eagle from the Wildlife Service named Justice. Local paper called it a win for wildlife and for every homeowner who's ever had to fight a clipboard-wielding tyrant. Karen's house sat empty, grass overgrown, price dropped, shutters closed. 14 months on the market before a retired park ranger bought it. First thing he did? Ask if we needed volunteers at the center. I handed him a clipboard. Sometimes justice looks like court rulings. Sometimes it's just a man cleaning out a house once ruled by a surveillance queen, while two eagles circle overhead, free and unbothered. That violation notice, aggressive bird activity, hangs in my office beside a signed letter from the DOI, thanking me for my dedication to raptor preservation. Some folks win with lawsuits. I won with feathers, patience, and the truth. When you go to war with nature and the law, you'd better know who's really watching from above. Now, let me ask you, where's the line between protecting your land and letting authority go unchecked? Is it right to fight power with power, or is there another way? Tell me what you think, and if you've ever squared off against the HOA or a clipboard warrior, drop your story below. Let's see whose side justice lands on this time.